what's up? We are the Bower Book Reviewers, and today we are back with another live that we are super excited for.
Sorry, Carson forgot to mention. She's Kirsten, I'm Avon. So we have something really excited coming up for you guys, and
we are going to be doing a live today with B.B Taylor, the author of the amazing book, The Vigilante Tooth Fairy. We are in love with this book. We read it as soon as 2021 was upon us. And yeah, but you know, normally with our lives, we wait 2 to 3 minutes for more people to join, so we want as many people as possible to watch this. So we're gonna play some music and wait for some more people to join. So see you in a bit.
okay, so we are back from that break, and a few more people have joined, which is great to see.
Hello, thank you for the love hearts.
So if you guys didn't catch the first bit of the live, we said that we will be reviewing, we will be interviewing the author of The Vigilante Tooth Fairy, and that is B.B Taylor. And we are super excited because it is a very, very good book.
Yeah, we love this book.
So we're going to just talk to you guys a bit about this live, and in 10-15 minutes we'll invite BB on to the live. So first of all, we're going to talk about the plan for the live. So we will be, of course, doing the introduction, which is now, and then we will be inviting BB on, author of Vigilante Tooth Fairy, and then we will be answering your questions. So please feel free to leave questions in the comments. It's not too early. You can do that, but we'll be coming back to them at the end of the live.
So I have 2 massive thank yous to do. First, thank you to Claire Willits of Not Only Pink and Blue, who is the publisher for B.B Taylor, for B.B Taylor's, just for B.B Taylor. And thank you so much for letting B.B Taylor come and do this live with us. We are so honored because we really, really do like this book. It was such a nice book to ease ourselves into 2020, and it's not that big.
2021.
Let's
not relive 2020, guys.
It's not that big, so it's just a nice kind of easy read to get yourself into 2021. And also a huge thank you if you're a subscriber to Happy Every Chapter, our book box. If you are, thank you so much for supporting us, because we really appreciate you. And if you're not, why aren't you subscribed? Go and subscribe. But thank you so much to all of you subscribers.
Okay, so last month's live was with Sybil Pounder, who is the author of Tinsels, The Girls Who Invented Christmas. And we actually didn't do it with her. We just read out her question answers. So we emailed her questions, some of your guys' questions as well. And then she emailed us back with the answers, but she couldn't make the live. So we were just reading out her answers and discussing them with you guys. That was really fun. So if you watched that live, please say so in the comments. We'd love to say hello to you.
So our subscription box, Happy Every Chapter, is on its 4th month. We've been doing this for 4 months, and we've got 20 subscribers, 20 very loyal and very kind subscribers. So thank you so much again, even though I just said thank you. And yeah, we're going to be talking to you about some of the themes. So this one, January's theme was Fantastic Fantasies, and that's the box we have this in. February's is going to be Haunting Historicals, which we are so excited for. We spent a long time like planning the box and just planning everything, and we think you're gonna really like it. And March's theme is going to be absurd animals or astonishing animals. We're still yet to decide the name.
If you guys have a name preference, please say.
Yeah, please tell us. And also, if you have any themes that you really want us to do, if it's a popular theme amongst the community, then we could think of actually adding that into our schedule.
And on it, adding on to what Kirsten said previously, February's box Haunting Historicals. It's a very good box, we hope anyways, but it was really hard. Oh, let me just take this banner down because we are no longer waiting for you guys to join. So it was a hard box to plan out because you want to find like old historical items, but you don't want them to be too expensive. You want them to be in budget. So it was kind of hard to buy stuff for, but we've got it and we think it is super cool. And what was in January's last box, I will I don't know what I'm saying right now. as in all boxes, we have 2 short stories written by us, 2 books that are related to the theme of the box. So we had Fantastic Fantasies, Vigilante Tooth Fairy, and then another book, Under Earth, which is all about magic. And then we have lifestyle items and bookish treats. So it is super cool. And in January's box, what lifestyle items we had? I think we had like chocolate in there, didn't we?
Yeah, we had some chocolates, and there will always be like a foodie item in the box. So.
Oh, we also had. Oh, how did I forget about this? We also had journals. Didn't we? We had.
Those are my favorite thing. I think you guys are gonna really like them if you. Oh, you probably already have got the box, so I hope you.
You still have time to order the box, by the way. Today's the 7th, is it?
So up to the 12th of this month, you can still order January's box, but after the 12th, you're gonna have to get February's box.
So you've got under a week to order January's box. And okay.
So if you want to order our subscription box, you can go to our website. I think Aim can put it on the screen for us, www.bauerbooks.co.uk. You can go there to order our boxes. If you want to get our books, you can go to Amazon as well.
Okay, so we should probably get started. We'll tell you guys about B.B Taylor, who we're going to be interviewing today. And B.B Taylor is the author of this book, The Vigilante Tooth Fairy. This is what she looks like. She has awesome purple hair. I love the other books. And by looking at them, we think they are also very much related to fantasy, like The Vigilante Tooth Fairy is. So they are really, really exciting to see. BB should hopefully tell us where we can get the book so we can really the Vigilante Tooth Fairy. It is a very, very good book.
So I'm going to read you the blurb of this book and then talk about how I felt reading this book as well. Children have stopped believing in magic, no longer leaving their teeth out for the fairies. No teeth, no magic, and no more fairies. Time is rapidly running out. Enter one little fairy, Mouse, always told she's too small to be a tooth fairy. She decides to take action, resorting to drastic measures and even breaking the fairy code of conduct. Ooh, what's the fairy code of conduct? Well, definitely read this book to find out. So when I was reading this book, I don't know, it made me really happy because I really like fantasy books and they just make me really happy because it's not really realistic and you can kind of escape from the real world by reading a fantasy. And that's how I felt with this book. And also, this is like, I think this is quite like a popular idea. Lots of people have written books about tooth fairies, but this is like one of the first ones I've seen. So it was really good for one of the first sort of mythical tooth fairy books I've seen. So yeah, I really like this.
Okay, right on cue, because it's actually 10 minutes into the live right now. I think we will have to introduce the person we're going to be interviewing for this live, B.B Taylor.
So here she is, guys. Get ready. Yay! Hi, B.B Taylor.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Oh, we're good. We're very excited for this live and to get to talking to you and talking about your amazing book. So first of all, since the audience doesn't really know who you are as well as we do, could you just explain yourself in a nutshell to them?
So my name's BB and I've been a writer for about 6 or 7 years. I'd like to describe myself as a professional daydreamer, superhero in training, and interested in exploring and trying new things. So I'm always up for learning something new.
That's really nice. So would you like the audience and us to refer you as BB, or is there anything else that you would like us to call you?
Most people call me BB, but as long as it's something nice, I usually respond to it.
Okay. So we also heard that you live in Birmingham, which is super interesting. And as we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, it must be really hard, especially in a place like Birmingham. And it's very, very crowded, as we've been there before, and it's full of people. So what is it like being in a pandemic in Birmingham?
So yeah, I used to live in Birmingham, and I ended up moving in the middle of the pandemic. So we had to move house right in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm now the other side of the Midlands, and it's so strange because you feel like you're in your own little world. Apart from going out for the absolute essentials, we don't really go anywhere. We get up in the morning, go for a really nice walk, and then the rest of the day we're locked away in our own little bubble. So yeah, it's been a bit surreal over the last year or so, but we've been trying to make the most of the opportunities to learn new things and make the most of the situation.
For us, it's been hard enough just staying in our own house during the pandemic, but I can't imagine how hard it would be moving to a new place in the middle of a pandemic. That must have been really stressful for you.
Yeah, it was quite a strange experience because we had to pack everything, we had to move to a completely new place, and of course we haven't been able to meet many new people because everyone's in isolation and everyone's social distancing. So we're quite excited for when the pandemic's over to make new friends and meet new people and see all the new things that our new home has to offer.
So, BB, we know that you really love writing because you've written so many books. And we inherited our love, we think we probably did inherit our love for reading and writing from our grandpa, who was a very avid reader, and even our great uncle, who had his own newspaper. So, what was your love for reading and writing passed on to you, or did you get it on your own?
I was always told as a child that I was eating books rather than reading them because I'd go through that many of them in one go. And the local charity shop knew me that well that they used to give me a discount on the books that I bought when I brought the old ones back. So I was always reading from a really early age. But my uncle was a really big reader as well. He gave me some of my earliest books that I remember. So yeah, there was a few people in my family that loved reading. My dad's very big into sci-fi and fantasy, but I always loved books. I could escape into books for hours as a child.
Was it the same thing for writing, or did you develop your skill of writing later on in life?
I think I always wrote stories. I spent a lot of time in my teens writing for magazines and youth magazines and things like that. And I always loved dreaming up stories. But I didn't really think I was capable of writing stories that people would like to read. I still look at today and think, oh my goodness, someone's read my book or someone likes my book. So I think writing something I've always enjoyed doing, but having the confidence to share it with other people sometimes takes a little bit of time.
Okay, so as you continue writing and the more you write, you develop different ways in writing, and well, that's what it was like for us. And we kind of call them writing quirks. It's a bit weird, but so do you have any of those? Like, for instance, mine is I always write the middle of my book before the beginning and end because I can kind of base it around that.
And I always just write my whole story out before I write my title, just so I don't have to commit to a title.
So is there anything like that for you, or are you just like a easygoing writer?
See, they're really, really great ideas of writing. And I think writing's such a special thing because it's so unique to every single person. I've got some friends that love to plot every single chapter before they start writing. And I've got other friends that literally just love to start writing and see where it goes. For me, I can't plan a story too much. If I know exactly what's going to happen, I'm not as excited about writing it. And I often find that I'm writing 2 or 3 stories at once because my brain just likes to flick between ideas. I've got a very short attention span. I always got told that I was a daydreamer as a child. So I'm always constantly flicking between stories that I want to write. So for me, it's all about the story taking me on an adventure and grabbing me in. So I don't want to know what's going on. I want the characters to tell me what's going on.
I totally agree with that. Like, sometimes I have so many stories on my laptop from years ago, like when I was like 8 or 7, and we'd be using the family laptop, I think. And I think we transferred it onto my laptop or something. But I have these random stories, and not even good stories. That's the thing. But I just have random stories dotted all over my laptop, like the most being about 10 pages, because I can never really stay hooked onto a piece of writing. It's kind of weird.
I'm sure they are good stories. They're just waiting for you to go back to them and put a little bit more into them. You know, every story is a good story because it's better than no story.
That's a good point.
So growing up, I wanted to be a prime minister, and I actually still do want to be a prime minister. And Avon wanted to be a doctor, and she still does want to be a doctor, although she's scared of blood, which
I used to like really love blood for some reason. It's kind of weird, but I'm kind of scared of blood.
And our little sister Caitlin wants to be a hairdresser, a teacher, and a doctor in the same week. So when you were younger, did you always want to be a writer, or was that kind of just out of the picture for you?
When I was growing up, I didn't know that you could be a writer as a job. I didn't know it was a real job that existed for people. I always wanted to be a vet when I was little. It was the only job I wanted to do. There was nothing else for me. I was going to be a vet, and becoming a writer was completely by accident. It happened without me even realizing it was happening. And yeah, the only thing I wanted to be as a child was a vet. But I do think you'd make a very good prime minister, I must say. I think that's a good role for you to go into. And if you like blood, definitely doctor is the way forward.
I definitely agree with like writing not really being considered as a career. It's kind of like a freelance job. You establish it yourself. Like there's no one apart from like journalists and stuff. No one's really employing you to publish books, I guess. So it's not like not many people consider it as a real career. It's something that you like just slip into, I guess.
Yeah, I think there are routes you can go down where you can go and study creative writing, and you can go to college and university and then go into writing. But for a lot of people, it's something that they find they fall into naturally, or it's something they develop and they eventually move into. I didn't go to university to study writing when I was younger. In fact, I only went back to university this year to do it. I went and started my master's in writing for children and young people this year. So, you know, everyone does things in different ways, and everyone has a different path for their journey when it comes to writing and illustrating as well. And I think that's one of the amazing things about it is, you know, it's unique to everyone, and everyone's got a different path to take with it.
Just a quick reminder, the people watching, make sure if you have any questions in your head and you're not really sure what to do with them, you can just type them in our comment section and we will answer them at the end. It can be questions for us or questions for BB, so make sure you just write them down and we'll get to them later.
Okay, so we were heavily inspired when we were writing our books. And my inspiration was Rick Riordan, actually. And my book is a very big, I definitely took a lot of inspiration from Rick Riordan. And for Kirsten, I think it was Hetty Feather, right?
Yeah, Hetty Feather by Jacqueline Wilson. I was in love with that series. It's a historical fiction, which my book is. And I just really wanted to make a historical fiction book, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
So did you have any inspirations, or did you just kind of, I know the Vigilante Tooth Fairy, it's a very unique plot, but did you have like any base of that, or?
Well, the first two books I ever remember reading were a present off my uncle for my 8th birthday, and they were Jacqueline Wilson's Girls in Love and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and they were the first two books I was ever remembered that I got as a present. So I think they had a very big influence. You were saying about Rick Riordan. I've got a book that you would absolutely love here, and he writes a lot of blurbs and comments for these. And this one's by Joshua Kahn, and it's called Shadow Magic. It's a really good trilogy, and he actually endorses it. He writes his own little comments on them because he likes them that much. But if you love fantasy, I highly recommend Joshua Kahn. His books are phenomenal. And my favorite author is...
I'm sorry, was it Shadow Magic?
Shadow Magic. It's part of a trilogy. He writes other books as well, and they are phenomenal. They are absolutely amazing. And there's also another author called Piers Anthony, who writes old school fantasy. So he writes a series about Xanth. So that was one of my favorite books growing up. But my absolute favorite as a child was Terry Pratchett. And the first book I remember reading from his was called Mort. So that was my favorite. And this is the one that I had as a child that I still have today. So I treasure this copy quite a lot. But I like to read as many different genres as possible, because I think as a writer, you need to read outside your own genre, outside of what you'd naturally be drawn to. And a few books, if you don't mind me sharing them, that I really enjoyed recently was, if anyone loves steampunk fantasy middle grade, we've got Brightstorm by Vashti Hardy. This is amazing. She has written lots of books since this one, but this was her very first one. So this one was phenomenal. If you like young adult books, we've got this one, which came out this month, called Boy I Am by K.L. Kettle. And if you like sci-fi YA, we've got Beauty Sleep by Catherine Evans. This one is amazing. But you were mentioning you like historically influenced books, so you might like this one. This one's called Bone Talk, and it's by Candy Gourlay, and it's all about the Bontoc tribe in the Philippines and how they were invaded and influenced by the Western civilization, and how it evolved historically. And you don't see many books like this from the perspective of the actual Philippine characters. And Candy is an amazing writer, so I'd highly recommend this one as well. This was one of my favorite books from last year. So I've got quite a wide taste in books, and I like to read as many different things as possible. I'll always give a new book a try, because you never know what you're going to fall in love with.
What was that last book called? Sorry, I just want to put it up so people can see.
That one's Bone Talk by Candy Gourlay. There we
go. Okay, so I have these books up on screen. I'll keep them up for a minute or two so you guys can see them. I definitely want to try some of those. Maybe Boy I Am. I don't know if it's too mature for me, but I would like to start reading a bit more mature books, because I'm aging and I'm moving on to different styles of reading. So that certainly just looked kind of cool.
And going back to your point of just reading different genres, I think that's a really good idea that even we should start taking on board, because you never know what like different things you could get from different books, and you could get just different ideas instead of just concentrating on one book or one genre. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, and you never know when genres cross over, and you might get influence from one genre into another. Catherine Evans' book is a sci-fi book. But it's done in such a way that a lot of people that don't normally like sci-fi have really enjoyed it. It's all about a girl who was she was frozen in time, and she wakes up many years later in a world she doesn't quite know or quite understand. And it's just fascinating how she weaved in sort of the past and the present, and the story evolves. I'm not going to give anyone any spoilers, because I hate when people give me spoilers, but I highly recommend it. And I know Catherine Evans' book, Beauty Sleep, is actually on Amazon on Kindle offer at the moment for 99p. So if you want to grab a bargain, there's my tip of the week.
Thank you for that. I'll definitely check out that book, because it sounds really good. We know that you've also written books like Murphy and Doodles, which are fantasy books. So what kind of got you into the fantasy genre? Because you seem to like that a lot with your books.
I love being able to escape into a book that anything is possible in. I love being able to literally see the world around me evaporate, and nothing except the words on the page exist. I'm a very visual person, so when I'm reading a book, I can see it playing out in my mind. I can see the characters, I can see the scenery, and it's almost like I'm standing in the middle of the story. So for me, fantasy books are amazing, because literally anything is possible. And sometimes the world can be a bit of a tough place, and sometimes it cannot be the way you want it to be. But in a book, it can be anything you want, and for the time that you're absorbed in that book, it can really make you feel like the world and the opportunities around you are endless.
I definitely agree with that. With fantasy, you can basically like create anything. Whoever created dragons, okay, that's fantasy. And you can it's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the widest genres, because you can do whatever you want to. It's fiction, it's fantasy, there's no rules set out. Okay, let's we're just gonna go through some of the comments. We have, hi girls, hi Vivi. Hey,
hi there.
And then we have, this is Uncle Michael. He's saying, my clever girls. Thank you, Uncle. And we've got Tiny children's books.
Oh.
Hey, so glad to see you here.
They are my publisher.
Oh,
that's so cool to see them. Okay. And then we have Beauty Sleep is Brilliant. Okay, so that's really cool to see that some people have read that. I should probably take that into account. So that will be on my Amazon list now. So, what were sorry, okay, there it goes. So, talking about fantasy and what appeals to you about fantasy, as a book goes, there are tricky parts and there are hard parts. But what were the best parts of writing fantasy, or I guess, and what were the bad parts as well? Because it kind of links on to your previous answer that you can do anything. But like, what were the worst parts of writing fantasy books?
So for me, I love writing the first draft. I love that buzz that you get and the excitement of following a character through a new adventure. The thing I don't like as much is the editing, because I've been in that world. I don't want to see the errors that are there. I don't want to pick up on all the things I've done wrong in the first draft, because your first draft is never going to be a perfect story. I think there's only one person I've ever heard of that wrote a perfect story the first time round, and that was David Almond and the book Skellig. He literally wrote it from start to finish and they barely had to edit it. But that's not the norm. The first draft is you telling yourself the story. And as much as you enjoy telling yourself the story, you then need to fix it so that everyone else will want to hear you telling the story. So for me, the editing is the worst part, because you have to look at all the bits that need tweaking and fixing and all the bits that need to be altered. And for me, my favourite part is that love of that first draft, of entering a new world and meeting those new characters for the very first time.
I think. Oh, sorry.
As a fellow fantasy writer, I do definitely agree. It's very thrilling writing fantasy at first, but then the editing, because you're kind of reading over the same thing. And although I do love writing, the editing part is very tedious, as you said, because you just have to read over the same work again, and you don't get that quite first draft through, I guess.
And also, our editor was very tough on us. He's still a very nice person, but he was really tough on us, and he made sure that every little detail of our books every little error was just perfect. It was just corrected, and we couldn't go wrong. And every time he'd send it back again with a whole new set. And we had about like 4,000 to 5,000 just punctuation mistakes that we had to go through all this one morning, or it was pretty much the whole day. We just had to go through and edit all of it. So yeah, he was really tough.
I'm quite lucky. I've got a really, really nice editor who works with me and puts up with me. And my editor is like that. He will pick up on pretty much every tiny error I sort of miss over or haven't seen. So a good editor is worth their weight in gold. And I think, a lot of people don't realize that a writer doesn't create a book all by themselves. There's a team around them. You have the amazing illustrators that do your cover art and your internal art. You've got your editors, you've got your publishing team, you've got the bookshops that support you and sell you. There's such a big team involved in the creation of a book. I think sometimes people forget that it isn't just the author. The author comes up with that initial concept or idea, but it takes a whole team to make it into something that the world can appreciate.
So on the subject of books and writing books, do you have anything else planned at the minute?
Oh, yeah. I'm working on a few projects at the moment. I'm not allowed to say yet because they haven't been announced. But I am working on a few projects, top secret. I'm really, really excited about. So they should be coming the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, I think. So 2022 is going to be a very busy year for me. So I'm really excited to share what I'm working on with the world then.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, we are very excited to see that. So when you're writing this genre of fantasy, are there any tips that you can give to aspiring fantasy authors, and even us, because we enjoy writing fantasy sometimes? And is there anything we should know before we just dive straight into writing this genre?
I think with fantasy, you've got to remember you are building an entire world that your reader might not see. So you're going to know all the facts about your characters, about where the story's based, about all the rules that go on in your world. Because when you've got a fantasy world, you've got rules that you create and then have to stick to. But you don't necessarily share all that with the reader in the final story, but it's still so important for you to know all those details. So I tend to create a scrapbook, and I will draw the lands, I will draw the characters. I say draw, I'm terrible at drawing, so it's usually stick men and pictures that I print off Google. But I create scrapbooks that I can put notes about my characters. and I interview my characters. So I ask them questions. What do they like? What don't they like? What are their biggest fears? What are their weaknesses? What do they want out of the story? And I think the more you get inside the head of your characters and get inside the heart of your world, the more prepared you are for the information you then need to select to give to your reader to make sure that they are immersed in your world, but not drowning in the information about it. And I think that's such an important thing, because you need to know that world inside and out, but then you need to pick those little bits to share with your reader to give them the best bits of your world.
I definitely agree. And I think that I'm probably biased, but fantasy may be one of the harder genres to write, even the hardest, because with other ones like historical fiction, you're not really creating a whole new world. You're kind of like Kirsten's book was set in London, and she didn't create London for sure. So you can kind of base it off that. I mean, it does mean research, but it's much harder. I mean, it's much easier, in my opinion, than creating a whole world yourself.
And
See, I
audience,
can't write
down.
historical fiction. I cannot write historical fiction at all,
Yeah.
because it means making sure that every single fact is right, every single point is correct. Your details down to the finest minute bits have to be perfect. Ali Sherrick and Emma Carroll and Vanessa Harbour all write amazing historical fiction, and their attention to detail is amazing. And I tried to write historical fiction once, and I just wanted to go off on my own tangent and, you know, change things and fix things. And you can't do that with historical fiction. So I have big respect for all historical writers. It is not something that I've managed to conquer so far.
Honestly, for me, it was so difficult writing it because I had to stick to, as you said, you have to stick to a certain time era, and I wanted to kind of drift off to a different era and give Anya, my character, telephones and, you know, let her like wear makeup and stuff. But I knew that she couldn't do that because I had to stick to Victorian times. And also, I hope the audience is writing all this down, what B.B Taylor said, because she gave some really good tips for any aspiring fantasy authors. So I hope you're writing this down.
Also remember, if you don't quite catch everything, this will be a recording on our YouTube channel, our book reviewer, so you can watch it back there.
We're also getting some questions in, so make sure to keep asking because we're going to go through them very soon.
Okay, so I think now that is pretty much all of the things that we wanted to ask you. And we're just going to go through some of the comments.
Oh, I actually have one more question for you, BB. I think lots of people are wondering how your hair is so nice, so natural, and so just purple. And what do people think of your purple hair?
Oh, that's my trade secret. I'm very lazy, so I don't like to do my hair. So my hair comes pre-ready for me each day. So purple is my favorite color. So that's why I went for purple hair.
I actually really like it. Also, this is really random. There's a giant Vigilante Tooth Fairy in the background.
Oh yeah, I thought it'd be useful to share. My lovely publishers, Tiny Tree Books. I work with for this particular story. The illustrator James Shaw and Ant, who works there on the marketing team, made me this absolutely lovely poster. And because we've been in lockdown, I haven't been able to share it with anyone. So my book came out in March 2020, literally about 2 days before lockdown. So my entire tour for that year that this beautiful banner was made for was cancelled. So I haven't had a chance to use it. So I thought, what better time to share my beautiful banner? So thank you, James, for creating it for me. And thanks for Ant for getting it sent to me. I love it. It's just up in the background now. So at least someone can see it.
I do really like that. Okay, so some of the questions. This is actually from our dad. Brilliant show so far, girls, and BB loving it. Thank you. Oh, and then Tiny Tree Children's Book said, no better way to spend a Sunday than watching an awesome interview with one of our authors.
Oh, thanks, Tiny Tree. That makes us so happy.
And this is really sad, but I also remembered it's Sunday and we have school tomorrow.
Oh.
Also, how are your girls doing in lockdown?
Yeah.
Because we heard that you have 2 girls living with you right now. Well, you have 3, but you have 2 at home with you right now. So how are they faring with this new lockdown?
So we've got as much of a structure as anyone can at the moment. So we're home. We've got homeschooling, obviously. So we've set up little classrooms in different rooms. So at the moment, I'm upstairs in my writing room, and Squish is downstairs in the front room, which is set up for her classroom, and Doodles has her room set up as a classroom as well. So each of them has interactive learning with school during the day, and then we try and do something fun in the afternoons. And then once they're all in bed of an evening, I try and get my writing done. And I'm at uni as well in lockdown, so I've got virtual uni a couple of days a week. So we're pretty busy, to be fair. You'd think that being in lockdown there'd be nothing to do, but they're keeping us quite busy, so you don't really get much time to think. You're just kind of plodding along each day, doing all the tasks that you've got to get done. I'm sure you guys know with school, you know, they never let up on that homework. It keeps coming. So I've been helping with homework quite a lot lately.
That does sound pretty nice, actually. And then Auntie Sassy says, great job, girls. Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you, Auntie.
Then you are also interviewers. Your questions are great. You've got a great teacher. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's actually really nice to see. Oh, and then we have a question. BB, writing one book is challenging enough, but having the inspiration to write another and another, etc., is awesome. How do you gain your inspiration for your next project?
So for me, coming up with the ideas of books isn't the hard part. Literally, my brain is constantly going off on different tangents with different ideas. For me, the hard part is sticking with one idea, writing it all the way through to the end, and getting that first draft finished. So for me, the hard part has always been writing one book at a time. Ideas just seem to come to me. I'm very much a daydreamer. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll have my phone out and I'll have my notes out, making random notes while I'm still half asleep and looking at them the next day going, what is that? But yeah, ideas have never really been a problem for me. It's always been making sure that that first draft is done to the best of my ability.
I think people underestimate how committed you have to be as an author to write a book, because just staying with the same idea can sometimes just get boring. You want to go, you have another idea and you don't really want to lose it because it's a really good idea. So you just have to put it aside and just carry on with your idea that you're doing right now.
Especially if you're very, very creative, then like you have 10 ideas at once. You want to write all of them, but you know you can't. It's a bit sad.
Definitely. I mean, the Vigilante Tooth Fairy, I didn't write in one go. I wrote the first 1,000 words when I was in hospital. I was a little bit poorly. I had influenza type B a few years ago, so I was stuck in hospital for a week or two, and I wrote the first 1,000 words then, and it sat in a drawer for about 2 years, and then one day it just suddenly clicked, and I just knew what I wanted the story to be about, and I knew what the rest of the story needed to be. But sometimes stories aren't meant to be written in one go, and sometimes they let you know when they're ready.
That's commitment, if any. I've seen it. You're still writing even though you're sick. Our next question is, are there any more adventures planned for Mouse?
Ooh. So Mouse is actually the fairy in the Vigilante Tooth Fairy.
Mouse has plenty of ideas of what she'd like to get up to, but it all depends on whether my publishers like the stories, whether they're stories that are marketable and they're stories that can be sold. But no, Mouse has plenty of ideas of things that she wants to get up to. So hopefully you'll see more of her in future.
I'd love to see more of Mouse as well.
And our next question comes from Mum. Can you tell us a bit about your ukulele in the background? It looks so nice.
I know. I would love you like that.
So I originally bought a ukulele a few years ago. We were on a trip to Scotland to see my dad, and we pulled in at a service station at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I was in my pajamas and I needed the bathroom. So I popped into the service station, and as I was coming back out in my pajamas, I seen this little blue ukulele. And I don't know why, I just decided I was going to buy it. So I came back to the car with my little ukulele, and it sat there for about 2 years, and I kept saying, I'm going to learn how to play that. I'm going to learn how to play that, and I never did. And then when lockdown started, a lot of my friends play ukulele, especially a lot of my author friends. They're really, really good at it. I was like, I'm going to learn this. And I really, really struggled to learn how to strum. And I said to myself, if I learn how to strum, I'm going to buy myself a pretty ukulele. And this was one that I'd seen, and it was a limited edition one that they'd stopped selling a few years ago. And just as I'd learned to strum, this one popped up at like a fraction of the price of what the originals were. So I was like, that's meant to be. I'm having that. So this is called a Sakura ukulele, apparently, because of the beautiful cherry blossoms on it. So it's my favorite ukulele.
That is actually very nice. In school, we were playing ukulele, but we've had to stop. Now, I was never really good at it, to be honest. So it is kind of hard. It's a very nice instrument. It makes a very nice sound once you learn how to, play it properly. But it is kind of hard to master. And
I find it really relaxing. I find it really relaxing to play, and I found an online like lessons. There's a lady called Bernadette Teaches Music on YouTube, and she does a 30-day ukulele challenge. Now, it's taken me a lot more than 30 days. I've been doing one lesson a month because I'm a slow learner. But I'm getting there. I can play about 20 chords now, and I can strum okay. So I'm getting there, and I'm enjoying it. It's something to do that's nice and relaxing.
Okay, Auntie Tessie says, I can't be more proud. Thank you, Auntie. And then, this is a cool one. Give us a tune. I'd love to hear a tune. Is that okay?
I'm not sure if it's tuned in, but I'll try. And I do apologise for how bad I am. Okay, it's tuned. There we go. Let's see. I'm not amazing at it still, so you'll have to bear with me.
That was really nice. The thing that always gets me with playing ukulele is the chord changes, like changing between the chords. But that was actually really smooth. I really like that.
Oh, thank you. I'm still not very, very good at it, so I've got lots more practice to do.
And then Tiny Tree's children's book says, fingers crossed. I think that was to your books getting published, about mouse. Fingers crossed too. Let's hope that happens. And then Mum says, where can we find out more about your books, about you or your books? If you would like to tell us, I will add it as a banner right here.
So as people may be aware, you guys have got my book in your January box. So if anyone would like to subscribe to your fantastic box, you can get a copy of my book that way. Another way to get a hold of it is directly through the publisher, which is Tiny Tree Books. There's also a company called Not Pink or Blue that does it, and most independent bookstores and main chains can get it as well. So Waterstones, Foyles, there's a beautiful bookshop called Right Blend in Liverpool, another fantastic bookshop called Chicken and Frog down in Brentwood. There's Pickled Pepper Books. There's so many beautiful independent bookstores up and down the country, and they can all order it directly from the publishers, or you can get it direct from them as well.
Thank you. Let me just write that down. So we've got Tiny Tree Books, Not Only Pink or Blue, and some bookstores, was that? So
yeah. So there's Right Blend Books, which is in Liverpool. Chicken and Frog Books, which is in Brentwood.
Okay, let me just...
While Ava just typing that, we heard that you have a blog and a YouTube channel which we checked out. So tell us a bit more about that. What do you write on your blog and what do you do on your YouTube channel?
So it hasn't been as consistent as it should have been this year because the world's been a little bit like a roller coaster. But I tend to use my blog just to talk to people. So it could be anything from what I'm getting up to with my writing, tips on publishing. It could be reviews about other books that I've read, because I love sharing. When I've read a really good book, I love sharing with other people what I've liked about the book. My YouTube channel, sometimes I share stories and riddles, sometimes it's updates on where I've been. So I really just use them as a way to try and connect with people, because the world's such a big place and there's so many ways nowadays that we can connect. I've even ventured into the world of TikTok. So we've been making TikTok videos while we've been in lockdown as well. So there's so many ways you can connect with people nowadays and make the world so accessible. So I try and reach out to as many different places as I can.
That is really good. So also your blog page, what was that again? Sorry.
It's on my website, so I think it's just inside my website. There's a link for it.
Is it BB? Sorry, what's your website name? Is it
BB Taylor -books.com.
Taylor -books.com. Okay, I'm not very good at typing.
Also,
Okay.
just a reminder for the people who kind of join in the middle of it. At the start, we were just saying that make sure to go and buy B.B Taylor's book, and you can even buy our box and get the book and other things if you would like. So, you can go and do that as well.
So I'm just gonna leave this up and running for a bit so you guys can read that. Also, we have a couple of comments. Oh, actually, we have some. I think it's from your ukulele playing. People really like it. We have heart. We have clapping, and then right blend loves you too. Oh, your love. That's really nice. And then Anne says, always such a pleasure to watch you girls. Thank you so much, Anne.
Aww.
I have a question from Anne. She says, do you have your own books in any independent stores too? Since we're self-published, we don't have our books in any independent stores. You can find our books on our website, www.bowerbooks.co.uk, or on Amazon. Just type in Carsten Bauer or Ava Bauer or Sagas of Anya or Land of the Neurogons to find our books. Ava's just going to add it to this very long banner of branding.
And if you do read the girls' fantastic books, make sure you leave them a review as well, because reviews always make a difference on Amazon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And adding on to Anne's question, we were actually trying to work our books into Waterstones, but it kind of got cut off since lockdown came about and everything. So there wasn't really much we could do about that. So it's kind of unfortunate, but we're going strong by ourselves at least.
All right, so we've been doing this live for 45 minutes. It does not feel like 45 minutes has passed. It feels like 10
time flies when you're having fun.
That's very true. So thank you so much to B.B Taylor for doing this live. We are just going to wait a few more seconds in case anyone has a question that they're quickly typing while we're just trying to round off. But again, a massive thank you to B.B Taylor. Make sure you go and follow her, buy her books and everything, and go to her website and check out her blog and her YouTube channel because she is amazing. And thank you so much for coming on here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, girls.
It's a pleasure. If you'd like your books in a bookshop, contact me.
Oh, I think you may have got an offer there, girls. Maybe a bookshop ready to stock your books.
Thank you so much. Oh, that's really cool, actually.
Thank you.
Mum will be so happy. Mum and Dad will be so happy at that. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm really excited now. So we're rounding off to the end of this live. This is really random, but while we're waiting for anyone to say anything else, B.B, do you have any hobbies that you like to do, or like anything other than writing that you like to partake in?
And apart from ukulele, of course.
So when I'm not writing and when the world's not in lockdown, I like to do kickboxing. So I do kickboxing. I am a blue belt at the moment. Very out of shape at the moment, but hoping to go back to it once the world reopens. And I love animals. So a lot of people that follow me will know that I used to work with animals before I started writing. And I work with a lot of exotic animals and rescue animals. So I love animals. I think because I wanted to be a vet so much when I was a child, animals have featured very heavily in my life. So yeah, I take care of my animals, I kickbox, play the ukulele, and just try and do as many creative things as possible. I think, when you write, you want to be creative, and sometimes you need a creative distraction to then get you back on track with your writing. So I also play the clarinet.
Oh, a clarinet. Is it a hard instrument to play, or is it an okay instrument?
It's not too bad, and if you can play the clarinet, you can play the saxophone, because the upper octave on a clarinet is exactly the same as both octaves on a saxophone. So it's always easier to start with clarinet and then move on to saxophone afterwards.
So Mum says, does B.B have any questions for us or any advice?
Oh, good question, Mum. So I'd like to know, how long did it take you guys to write your books? How long did it take you for your first draft on your books?
Our first draft, I think that just because we entered a BBC 500 word competition, and then maybe like 1 or 2 months later, we decided to use our entries for the competition to make them into books. And that's probably the main reason why Ava and I started writing the middle of our books first, because we had to use the entries for our competition. So the first draft kind of took maybe 1 to 2 months just to get everything on the paper. And then when we started getting serious and getting an editor, it's until when it got published. It's probably like a year and a bit, maybe. So
Yeah, so like a
fantastic.
year and a quarter.
That's really, really good, because some authors, even award-winning authors, it can take them 8 or 9 years to finish that very first draft. So completing it in under a year is a massive accomplishment. And editing, as we know, is very, very hard. What I would say about editing is there are some ways to get around editing. So when you're rereading your work and when you're editing your work, some top tips: change the font that you've written it in, change the color you've written it in, and read it out loud. Those 3 things will trick your brain into thinking that you are reading something completely new for the first time and make you less likely to skip over your errors. So simply by changing the font, the size, the color, and reading it out loud, you're more likely to pick up on any errors that your brain would normally skip over. And it's a great way to get the editing out of the way a little bit quicker.
That's a really good tip. So that was font, the size, and the color, and reading it aloud. Thank you. That will definitely help a ton.
That tip was so good. I just want to cry. Like I need that tip more than you know. When I was doing my first draft, I missed so many mistakes, and James, our editor, sent them back. And there were so many mistakes that I thought were fine because I just whizzed through it. But I think if you're looking at it as if it's a completely new thing, then you'll definitely see the mistakes. So thank you so much for that tip. That's definitely gonna help me in particular.
Ooh. Girls, any interesting animal or bird rescue during lockdown? Wink, wink. Oh, well, okay. That's a very big hint. So we actually, this is really random. We have a few animals. We have a cat named Zaki, whose birthday was yesterday. And we have around 30 fishes. Now we only have 6, and they're the big ones because these pesky herons keep on coming and eating our fish. So now we've basically ran out of fishes, and we only have 6 left. And then the most interesting of the pets that we have, a pigeon.
Very nice.
So yeah, in lockdown, I think it was like in near the end of August, we rescued a baby pigeon that had fallen out of its nest. Its sibling unfortunately had died, but you know, it would have been kind of hard with 2 pigeons. That's kind of mean, but yeah, it's hard enough with 1 pigeon and a cat. So now we have a pigeon. His name is Gus, and he comes around and we feed him his bird food, and then he goes off and just does pigeony stuff, you know.
But I think Dad is very, very hooked to Gus.
Yeah,
like more than hooked.
Emotionally attached.
I think there's a story there. I think there's a story to be told about Gus. You know, I think some of the most exciting things that happen in our lives develop into some of the most heartfelt stories that we can tell. And I think Gus definitely has a story to tell there. So maybe your next book needs to have a Gus in it.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Just which one of us is going to use Gus?
Okay, so we have. Oh, thank you all so much. You brighten up a dull Liverpool Sunday. Our pleasure. We actually love doing this, so it's really nice that people love watching it too. We're so happy that we could help with your dull Sunday.
And Snowball says hi, hello. If you've just joined, you can just go back and watch what you missed.
Oh, live! Oh, they're watching it on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then Mum says, "Oh, well, that's amazing. Thank you." I think that was the tip for reading back your work. I know it really was an amazing tip. That's literally going to change my life with manuscripts and that sort of stuff.
All right, so I think now is the time to pretty much just end off this slide. We've gotten a few questions in. Thank you to everyone who's interacted today. We really appreciate you. And a super big thanks to Bob Stone, who has given us
Mr.
Stone, who has given us that amazing opportunity to contact him. So thank you so much, Mr. Stone. And yeah, we will be seeing you soon, hopefully. So a massive thank you to BB and our audience once again for coming and watching this, and everyone on YouTube too. Thank you, B.B Taylor, and for writing this amazing book. We love it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for such an interesting afternoon and a wonderful interview.
Thank you.
Bye.